Okay, here's our seventh and final video on the final PPE report. And again, as a reminder, I'm over here under student resources and final PPE report instructions. And so I'm going to kick off this section, this recording by addressing the management and leadership principles section. Okay, so prior to starting your PPE, we're going to be going over what theory X and theory Y mean in terms of leadership management styles. Okay. And so we'll be addressing this in Unit 4. Okay. So it talks here about theory X and theory Y. I'm not going to go over that right now because you're going to be learning about it. And so really what you're going to be doing for this section is you're going to be conducting an interview. Okay, you're going to conduct an interview. It says here with your PPE site mentor or another leader at the PPE site. So for those of you going on site, this is pretty straightforward. For those of you that are doing virtual PPEs, I would just like you to select one of the mentors that you meet with. Okay. And so I don't care if your entire group picks the same mentor, that is just fine. I'm just going to be looking for your own assessment, your own work on this section. Okay. All right. So first thing you're going to do is you're going to go back to Blackboard because we're going to have a discussion on management styles. And in that discussion, you're going to develop interview questions for an interview while you are trying to get at the answer to the question, what leadership or management style does this mentor have? And so to maybe explain that a little bit better. So what you're going to want to do is develop interview questions that are going to help you answer that overarching question and get to the bottom of the type of leader they are. Okay, some are going to be theory X, some are going to be theory Y, and some are going to use kind of a combination of both. And so it's okay if they do have both, but it's going to be up to you to make that assessment. Okay. And so the nice thing about this one is you're going to be able to go back to our discussion in Unit 4 and you're going to be able to pull those interview questions and use what fits for you, what you like, and go from there. Okay. So for this section, you're going to provide the name and the title of the person you're interviewing. You are going to provide a list of the interview questions. So I want to see each question that you're going to ask. Okay. And then that leader's response to those interview questions. Now, students have done this different ways in the past where they just list the question, use the question as the heading, and then provide the manager or leader's response. And that actually is kind of the method I prefer. If you do decide to do kind of a run on like paper about this, it would be nice if you just split up the paragraphs by question. Okay. Just kind of helps me see better what you're discussing and the question that person is addressing. Okay. So at the end of that, after you provide the interview questions and you provide their responses, then you're going to make an assessment of the leader's supervisory style. Are they theory X or theory Y? Okay. I want you to provide rationale and examples to support your assessment. So, and here it talks about, I already asked this, does leader have supervisory style of theory X or theory Y? And then what supervisory traits helped you reach the conclusion that you did? Okay. Then you're going to create an organization chart where the focus or the detail is on the management staff of that department where that supervisor or manager resides. Okay. It should be a chart of your own creation. So if they give you a chart, I don't want you to just copy that. I want you to, use that, I should say. It's okay if you kind of copy it, but part of the intent of this assignment is for you to demonstrate your ability to actually create an org chart. Okay. And so I would prefer that you get the information through discussion with that mentor. Okay. And then lastly, you're going to pull out your Oaks and Waters textbook and you're going to review the information on management functions of planning, organizing, directing, leading, and controlling and evaluating. Excuse me. And you're going to address the functions that this leader performs. Okay. So what you want to do is um, is really kind of develop an essay here. Okay. So you're going to talk with that leader or that manager or supervisor during that same interview, have a discussion about the management functions that they perform. Okay. Make sure going into that meeting that you know what each of these management functions are so that you're able to ask good questions and so that you can formulate questions in advance. All right. It should be 2 to 3 pages, double spaced. I want you to address these 2 questions. How involved is the leader you are interviewed in each of the 4 managerial functions? So you need to address each managerial function. If they're not involved with that function, then you need to say that. I've had students where they're just saying, they just tell me like, oh, they just perform organizing mainly. Well, that's great, but why don't they perform planning? Why don't they direct and lead? It's probably pretty odd that a manager wouldn't perform directing and leading. Okay, so think about that. All right. And then also explain why they may be more involved in some functions and not others. So I want this to be a fully developed essay addressing the leadership functions, management functions that this leader performs. Okay. All right, and here's the grading rubric for that section. Next is the reflection paper. All right, this is pretty straightforward. It's kind of your average reflection paper, but it's a little bit longer in length compared to some of these other sections, okay? I think this is gonna be interesting. This is actually probably one of my favorite parts of the PPE is reading these because I really get some insight into, your thoughts and feelings about the PPE, how things really went, how you grew, all of those kinds of things. And so um, take your time with this one. Okay. So it should be 5 to 7 pages, double spaced. Again, if you have any figures or tables or appendices, include those separately. They are not part of that page length requirement. It should be first person in voice and it should be self-reflective in tone. Okay. Um, Citations there clearly and completely address elements and answer the questions posed below. You should highlight the outcomes and student achievements through your PPE while synthesizing specific experiences that contributed to your PPE. Okay. It should be focused, logically organized, express ideas fluently. Paragraphs should begin with strong topic sentences and contain enough evidence or examples to support those topic sentences. The paper should follow obviously conventions of good writing. Make sure you proofread it and edit for spelling and grammatical errors. Okay, so here are the sections of this reflection paper. All right, so first of all, you want you to kind of explain the steps you took to meet your learning objectives. Okay. And so those objectives are actually addressed in your pre-PPE conference worksheet. Okay. So these are the things that you're going to be discussing with me during your pre-PPE conference. And so we want you to think back on them and determine, did you accomplish those objectives? What supportive factors helped you to accomplish them? What kind of support was missing that you would have liked to have had? Why didn't you accomplish them? Those kinds of things. Then I want you to consider what skills and knowledge from your classes or activities at CSS or even your previous education that you were able to use during the PPE. Consider your technical skills. Did you gain any additional technical skills through your PPE? Are there technical skills you still need to improve upon? Are there technical applications that you didn't like performing well on your PPE? So this may be a little bit more challenging for those of you with virtual PPEs, but do your best here because some of your projects are going to involve different software applications and probably things that you have not used previously or done previously. Many people say that networking is one of the most important elements of a PPE. So here, did you develop professional relationships that may help you in your future academic and career endeavors? Explain your experience networking with other professionals during your PPE. And of course, this is going to look a lot different for those of you with virtual PPEs. And so just think about that, but also kind of make note here that this is really important. And so, whether it's It's the relationship that you form with the mentor you're working with on the project, because that person is someone you're going to be working more closely with. Maybe it's the person that you did your exploration with, and those kinds of things. Okay. All right. So, what did it mean to be at the PPE site? What is the value of the experience? And so, for those of you doing virtual PPE, so what did it mean to be conducting a virtual PPE? What was the value of the virtual PPE experience for you? What about your PPE did you like most? What were you most challenged by personally and professionally? If the experience was negative or you had moments of negativity, what can you take away from the experience? So, what did you learn about yourself as an employee, a coworker, a team member? What do you think your site mentor would say about you as an employee? What would other coworkers say about you as a team member? So, for those of you that are on site, consider what coworkers, so those individuals working in that department, might say about you as somebody that could potentially be working with them. And then for those of you that are doing virtual PPEs, think about your actual team members that you were put in, the groups that you were put into to conduct your virtual PPEs. Okay. And then lastly, what professional workplace skills do you need to improve upon? Okay, so here we go again. Throughout your PPE, there are most likely times you felt very prepared and other times where you didn't feel prepared. So talk about what experiences you felt prepared. What did you know? What did you not feel prepared for? What didn't you know? Here we go. Through your PPE, you were exposed to many different people and different roles. And as you reflect on some of the most interesting roles, is there additional experience, education, or skills that you would need to be successful in that role? Where do you see yourself in that organization or maybe in that role in the future? Okay. And then lastly, how has this experience affected your career plans going forward? All right, that was a mouthful. So basically, just reflecting on your entire experience as a whole and addressing these elements. Okay, here is the grading rubric for that reflection paper. All right, so if you're conducting an on-site PPE, you can actually drop off right now. I think I mentioned earlier the exploration component, but I should make note in the final PPE report instructions that this exploration component is only for virtual PPEs. Okay, so if that caused any confusion, I'm very sorry, but this is for just for virtual PPEs. So for those of you conducting on-site PPEs, you'll just have 5 sections to your final report, and for those of you conducting virtual PPEs, you're going to have 6 sections. Okay, and you might be wondering, why do I have to do this extra step if I'm doing a virtual PPE? And the reason is just to get you exposure to one more professional. This will also be more of a one-on-one interview for you and not as a team. Okay, and so I'm hoping you enjoy that. So Eric and I are going to provide a list of exploration mentors that you can pick from to meet with. Okay, and so this is an interview you're going to be setting up on your own. Okay, so what you need to do is, after you've identified the person and before you meet with them, you need to develop a set of interview questions. So what we want you to do is interview the professional. You're going to transcribe the interview, and then you're going to develop a short essay related to their strengths and weaknesses for sorry, your own personal strengths. I need to rewrite that. It's related to your personal strengths and weaknesses for a role, such as the one the interviewee holds. Okay. All right. So again, imagine the audience knows nothing or very little about the exploration role, and the professional when you're developing the interview questions. Please use first person when you write this essay. Instructions have been provided below to guide the student in developing interview questions, and your transcript, grammar, spelling, comprehension, and depth will also be taken into consideration when I grade this. Okay. So you're going to conduct an in-depth interview with a professional, and prior to conducting the interview, you should develop a set of 20 to 30 open-ended interview questions. Okay. If you don't know what an open-ended interview question is, definitely research that. But basically, it's anything that doesn't have a yes/no response. Okay. It's going to require that person that you're interviewing to elaborate. All right. The interview questions should address the following. I'm not going to read these. So you can go ahead and read those. Then you're going to conduct the in-depth interview, and then you're going to develop a transcript of your interview. And so, what this means is you're going to have to record it. All right, for you to create a transcript, you need to record this interview. This is the only interview that you will be recording as part of your PPE. So you're going to use Zoom. Okay, so but before starting the interview, make sure that you ask the interviewee whether or not they're willing to allow you to record the interview. Okay, explain to them that at the conclusion of the interview, you will be writing a transcript of your entire discussion as part of the final PPE report, and this may help them to understand. And then, of course, you're going to destroy that interview. You're not going to be posting it on YouTube or anything like that. Okay, so if you have permission, record the entire interview. Okay, and then we want you to transcribe the whole interview word for word. Okay. What this does is it's going to give me proof that you actually conducted the interview. It's also going to allow me um, to really understand, the questions that you're asking and their responses. The other thing is, don't destroy that a recording right after, because as I'm grading, I may ask to see it. Okay, or to listen to it. So make sure you save that MP4 or whatever in a safe place. All right. Okay, so make sure then that you begin the transcript with a statement about your interviewee's willingness to be recorded, and then share the name of your interviewee, the date of the interview, and the start and time of the interview. And I provided an example here below. So this is kind of what your transcript would look like. And so you can see here I have a statement. So I have permission from my interviewee to record the interview. The following is an exact transcript of the interview recording. I met with Jane Doe on Thursday, September 17th, 2020. Our interview began at 1 and concluded at 1:50. And then here you start in the interviewer, and then the interviewee, interviewer, interviewee. So this is how your transcript will progress. And so then at the conclusion of your transcript, I want you to just develop a quick 1-page essay where you address these 2 questions. So what is there about yourself that you feel would make you successful in this position? What are the weaknesses you would need to strengthen prior to employment in this type of role and or setting? Okay. So the deliverables for this final PPE report, and I need to add the recording because I don't necessarily want you to submit that, but I want you to keep that and have it as a reference for me should I need it. So a transcript of the interview is the first deliverable. The second deliverable is that 1-page essay addressing the questions. Okay. So I'm going to update this after this recording to include the actual recording. All right. And then lastly, here's your grading rubric for that interview. Okay. So this concludes our overview of the final PPE report and the instructions for that final PPE report. Make sure that you reach out to me if you have any questions. And of course, work with each other. Use yourselves as resources for each other and support one another in developing this. And I hope this goes without saying, but of course, I'm looking for original work here. I'm if I see that you are submitting the exact same essays as what someone in your group, I will be returning that. Okay, for you both to redo. All right. So that concludes this, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Thanks.